So, you want a gaming laptop, but you don't know how much money you should spend on one. You could either save a little money and get a pretty decent one, or go all out and get a big, bright gaming beast. So today we'll be comparing two very different laptops at two different price points. The Lenovo LOQ 15 and the Asus ROG STRIX G16. Let's find out whether that wallet of yours is safe or not. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, you can pretty clearly see that the Scar had a lot more money left for aesthetics. Then again, this might not be a positive for everyone. Some people prefer a less gamery look. I personally do think the Scar looks cooler though. And of course, you can turn all of these epilepsy hazards off if you want to. They're both pretty damn sturdy, but the Scar is a bit more rigid. Probably because it just has a lot more cooling in it. And that's also visible from its thickness. I mean, this is one thick boy. And that also means it is quite a bit heavier. Both of these aren't really one-handable, but the Scar is just downright a portable desktop. And more money obviously gets you better specifications. So the Scar is a couple of GPU and CPU tiers higher than the LOQ. This should be interesting. The Scar also has higher power limits for every part, so they should perform a lot better. And it simply has higher spec options, while the LOQ is limited up to an RTX 5070, which also means it's limited to only 8GB of VRAM, which is starting to become a limit in newer games. But both have a great port selection. The LOQ actually has most of its ports on the back, while the Scar has it all on the left and the right side. But for the Scar, all that extra power, of course, comes with an extra hefty power brick. Which is understandable once you see the wattage difference between these two. They can both also charge through USB-C as well though, so smaller chargers are possible in emergencies. Another bright difference lies in their keyboards. The Scar has a full per-key RGB backlight, which allows for all sorts of effects. And the LOQ is white. That's about it. Again, if you don't like the gamer aesthetic, this is actually a positive. But of course, you can just set the Scar's keyboard to be a boring color as well, so this doesn't really count. Here's how their keyboards feel and sound. They both have great feeling keys. The Scar is a bit more thumpy with longer key travel. And the LOQ is a bit more clicky. But obviously the LOQ has this full-size numpad, which is definitely a plus. While the Scar only has this on its 18-inch variant, but this one actually also has one, but it's a little hidden. Which strangely brings us to their trackpads. The Scar's trackpad is obviously a lot bigger, which is nice. But it also has this undersurface touch-based numpad you can turn on. This is obviously not as good as actual physical keys, but it is pretty cool. Now as for the trackpads themselves, the LOQ definitely feels a lot cheaper than the Scar. They both do have a satisfying click, but I think the Scar wins here. Another big upgrade is in the displays. The LOQ has an okay screen that's good enough, but the Scar has a very high quality mini LED display. And the main difference lies in their brightness. The LOQ has the bare minimum of 300 nits, which isn't really enough for outside use, while the Scar could flashbang a small child if it got too close. Another big advantage of mini LED is the amazing colors it has, while the LOQ is just pretty bland. And the blacks on the Scar just look leagues better as well. The Scar's display is also simply smoother, especially for fast-paced games. The LOQ does technically have a 144Hz refresh rate, but it has very slow pixel response times. So it's got a lot of ghosting and it just looks smeary. The Scar's display also has a higher resolution, which means everything is a bit crispier. The LOQ's display hinge does open up further though, but it feels a little cheaper and I don't know how long it'll last compared to the Scar. But here's where it gets interesting, their speakers. Believe it or not, they're actually really close. The LOQ has more bass, but doesn't get as loud, while the Scar gets louder and is clearer, but sounds a little bit distorted. I still think Asus should have just put better speakers in the Scar. I mean, their Zephyrus lineup literally has the best speakers in any laptop. But for some reason, this ridiculously expensive gaming laptop has worse speakers. Anyways, they're both pretty good and definitely okay for gaming. But I do think the LOQ sounds a bit better. Look, you're probably not buying a gaming laptop for its webcam, but the LOQ does have quite a high quality sensor. The Scar though definitely has the clearer, better sounding microphone here, so yippee for Teams meetings. Which finally brings us to performance. How much faster is the Scar at almost 3 times the price of the LOQ? Well, I ran Cinebench R23 to compare their processors, and of course, the Scar is a lot faster. And in terms of multi-core performance, they're on complete opposites of the spectrum. And in 3D Mark TimeSpy, the Scar is almost double as fast when it comes to GPU performance, which was to be expected. But how does this translate to real-world use, like playing some actual games? Well, let's see.
Ik kan erop klimmen. Oh shit!
You'll never take me down.
What did you do, man? No!
So to absolutely nobody's surprise, the more expensive laptop is faster. In both CPU and GPU intensive games, it achieved almost double the frame rates, which is obviously a huge difference. I did run everything at full HD, so it's a more fair comparison to the LOQ, but the Scar would have done even better if it ran at its native resolution of 1600p. Its CPU is also almost 3 times better in multi-core performance, so it's a lot better for productivity tasks as well. The Scar has the better CPU and GPU, and it just has a lot more power available to power them. There's not much to say here, the Scar is obviously a lot faster. But what about temperatures and fan noise? Does the LOQ run cooler and quieter? Well, surprisingly, yes. It may have a weaker cooling system, but it also uses a lot less power, so its CPU stays considerably cooler than on the Scar. And it also stays a lot quieter in terms of fan noise. Obviously, you can change fan modes to make them both quieter, but I tested everything in their highest performance modes. Now, you're not buying a gaming laptop for its battery life, but it is nice to know which one would last longer in an emergency. So I tested them in 2 scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use test, I played a YouTube video until their batteries died with their displays at 300 nits, so the same brightness, at 60 Hz and with their dedicated GPUs turned off. And the LOQ did last quite a bit longer. The LOQ's processor is simply less power hungry, and the SCAR's display and all of this extra stuff uses a lot more power. Now in the gaming test, I played Battlefield 1 until their batteries died with the same settings as before. And I'm gonna keep saying this, gaming laptops are not made to play games on battery. If you want to do that, please get a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally. Now when we're talking about upgradability, it gets a little interesting. And you'll see why in a bit. They both have two M.2 SSD slots, which means easy and quick storage upgrades. But the LOQ's first slot only fits a smaller format SSD. Luckily, that's also the pre-installed drive though. They both also have two RAM slots, so memory upgrades are completely possible, and they have upgradable Wi-Fi cards as well. But to open up the LOQ, you need to remove a couple of screws and pry the back off, while on the SCAR, you click one button and it just completely comes off, just like that. This makes upgrades a lot easier and less scary, obviously. So in my opinion, it wins here. And now what it's all about, pricing. How much more does the SCAR cost compared to the LOQ? Well, at current prices, the LOQ costs anywhere between $1,000 and $1,200. And the SCAR is almost 3 times more expensive. This is the price of a second-hand car. There are cheaper configurations available for both of them, so you can get the SCAR for considerably cheaper, especially if you just get the regular Strix model. But you've seen what that money gets you in this video, which brings us to our conclusion. Should you save your money and get a cheap gaming laptop, or spend a lot more and get an expensive gaming laptop? In all honesty, the SCAR is way too expensive. Let me be clear, the SCAR is in every way superior to the LOQ. It has one of the best displays you can get on a laptop, it's one of the fastest laptops you can buy, and in my opinion, it's just very pretty. But would I pay more than $3,000 for a gaming laptop? Probably not. Performance does not scale with this price increase. 3 times the price does not mean 3 times the performance. So cheaper laptops usually have a better price to performance ratio. So which one of these should you get? Well, you're gonna hate me for this, but I think you should get neither. The best price to performance this generation goes to RTX 5060 and 5070 Ti gaming laptops. And while the LOQ does have good performance, it lacks a good display. And while the SCAR has, well, everything, it's very expensive. So try to find a middle ground, a laptop with a good display, performance, and, well, everything else at a reasonable price. But if you're specifically choosing between these two, I've got a very simple answer. If you can spare the money, I would get the SCAR. It is simply one of the best gaming laptops money can buy. But if the FPS numbers of the LOQ looked fine to you, I would just get this one. I mean, it's really not a bad gaming laptop. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Disco Volante, Daniel, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Toasted, Eric the Rad, Wesley Rhodes, Michael, Ghost Data, Anogadar, and Abdullah. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club. So you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.